Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Today we are going to learn about the ureter and urinary bladder. Ureter and urinary bladder. Okay. The first one is ureter. Ureter is the tube uh, which connect the urinary bladder with the kidney. The ureter arises mainly from the kidney, from the pilus region of the kidney, and it ends on the urinary bladder. It connects the urinary bladder with the kidney. It is responsible for the transfer of urine from the kidney to the urinary bladder. This ureter is basically 30 centimeter in length, around about 30 centimeter. That is nearly equal to 1 foot, um, or 12 inches. This mainly start from the pelvis of the kidney, and this ends on the urinary bladder. Yes, it enters the urinary bladder on the dorsal side. You can see the pipe. This bladder is made transparent, and you can see that this opens into the bladder on the dorsal side. And there is also an application why this opens into the bladder on dorsal side. I will tell you later. Now coming toward the urinary bladder. Urinary bladder is a pouch shaped structure, a bladder that is responsible for the storage of urine. The urine which comes from the uh, kidney through ureter is stored inside this urinary bladder. This urinary bladder is having around about half liter capacity for the storage of urine, but this varies from male to female. In the female, the capacity is a bit low, while in the male, the capacity is a bit high. And why this is so? Because I will tell you in the last slide, in the second last slide. Now, the urinary bladder is made up of three main types of tissues, three main layers. One is the fibrous layer. The outermost layer is fibrous layer. This is a type of connective tissue. And the second, sorry, the second one is muscular layer. This is made up of smooth muscles. This is the thickest layer of the urinary bladder. This is made up of smooth muscle. And the third layer is transitional epithelium. Actually, this transitional epithelium is made up of a special type of epithelial cells which can shape, which can assume the shape upon the contraction and relaxation of the bladder, which can change its shape upon the filling and emptying of this urinary bladder. Why this is called transitional epithelium? Because it is always in transition. When this urinary bladder is filled of urine, then these cells are flattened. But when this is not filled with urine, these cells are somewhat columnar shape. Okay. This, the internal surface of this urinary bladder is having a crust-shaped structure. These are called rugis. These are called rugis. Just like rugis in the you can see in the kidney, uh, in the stomach, the rugi in the stomach. This resemble the rugi in the stomach. So these crusts are called rugis, and these crusts are surface of these crusts are covered with the mucus, and there is a bit mucus on the surface of this, because these transitional cells also produce some mucus. And these the muscular layer is responsible for the contraction and relaxation of the urinary bladder. Now, and this one, you can see over here that the ureter opening are on the dorsal side. These are the opening on dorsal side, and the urethral orifice on the lower side. This is urethral orifice. This is on the lower side. This is the urinary bladder. This is the transitional epithelium layer. This is the muscular layer, smooth muscle layer, and this is the which layer? The fibrous layer. This is made up of the muscles are called detrusor muscle. The muscular layer are called detrusor muscle, and these detrusor muscle are modified in this area, and these in this area these detrusor muscle are called trigon muscles. You can also call it simply trigon, but this trigon mainly consists of large. Its major portion is made up of trigon muscle, so that is why I call it trigon muscle. So this urinary bladder, and this area is called trigon, and this trigon is made up of the three orifices: this urethral orifice, this ureter orifice, and this urethral orifice, internal urethral orifice. So these three orifices make this trigonal shape structure, and this trigon is also necessary for the for this urinary bladder, because you can see that the urine come from the kidney through this urethra through this ureter to this side to bladder, and to this ureter to the bladder. But this trigon shaped structure do not allow the backflow of urine to the ureter. This trigon is responsible um, for the inhibition of backward flow of the urine to the urethra. So this special shaped structure is responsible for not allowing the urine backflow. Okay, uh, s- now the uh, this one, the urethra is this part is the urethra, and the urethra is a thin fibrous tube, fibromuscular tube. This is fibromuscular tube that begins at the lower opening of the bladder. This is the lower opening of the bladder. It begins over here and extend through urogenital diaphragm to the outside of the body, called the external urethral orifice. So you can see over here that this urethra starts from the lower end of the what of the bladder, the lower opening of the bladder, and it ends on the urethral orifice. This is the urethral orifice. This area is urethral orifice. So this tube is called urethra. Urethra is responsible for the removal of urine from the bladder, from the bladder. And when this bladder is filled up of this when this bladder is filled up of urine, then this bladder is emptied with the help of this urinary urethra. So now the next one, in this diagram you can see the difference between male and female urinary system, and this is very important. You can see in the this one is for male and this one is for female. You can see over here that the bladder of male is comparatively very large as compared to the urinary bladder of the female. And why it is so? Because the male uh, this peritoneal area of the male do not contain any sort of uh, this uterus or womb. This uterus, because uterus is absent inside the man and uterus is present inside the male, for the formation of fetus. For a fetus formation occurs in this area. So that is why the capacity of the female urinary bladder is low, because it also accommodate this peritoneal area of the female, also accommodate the uterus as well as the ovaries. So and in this area the male area is not filled with any ovary or in any uterus. That is why this has attained a large area, and this is having maximum up to 600 ml capacity, and this is having capacity not more than a half liter. Okay, you can also see over here that the mm, the urethra, this is the ureter. Okay, I'm also going to make you sure about the position of this urinary bladder. This position of urinary bladder varies upon the emptying or the filling of this urinary bladder. When this urinary bladder is filled with urine, its position goes up. It goes upward, but when it is not filled with urine, it assume its position over here in this area. But when this is filled, it goes upward. This goes upward upon filling. This do not goes downward upon filling. This goes upward upon filling. This also goes upward upon filling. And so uh, and the next difference between the urinary system of male and female is that the urethra, this is the urethra, this is the urethra, this is the urethra to which the urine is emptied from the bladder or urinary bladder. So this urethra is having 4 centimeter length in the female and 20 centimeter length in the male. Secondly, this there is also a bit difference in the next. I'm going to show you in the next diagram. uh, Urethral sphincters. The urethral sphincter. The sphincter are the group of muscular cells which allow one-sided flow of urine upon opening. Okay, this urethral sphincter, this is the internal sphincter is involuntary. You can see over here that this is urinary bladder, and this is the trigon. This area is trigon, and this is the internal. This is the internal urethral orifice, and this is the external urethral orifice. External urethral orifice, and this is the internal urethral orifice. Near the internal urethral orifice, there is a group of muscle. This is called internal urethral sphincter, and these strong muscles are called external urethral orifice. These are called external urethral orifice. These internal urethral orifice are involuntary, and these are voluntary. These are not under the control of human brain, and this is under the control of human brain. You can control your urine with the help of this one. You cannot control your urine with the help of this one. And you should also be clear over here that this internal sphincter is very weak in the female and very strong in the male, while the external sphincter are almost nearly having equal strength in male and female. The external sphincter is having equal strength in male and female, and these are somatic. Uh, these are connected with the help of somatic muscles, somatic neuron, and these are connected with the hip bone on the right and left side, and these are very strong muscle, almost having the same strength in male and female, but this is having weak composition in female and strong composition in male, because in the male it do not allow uh, the backward flow of seminal fluid to the to this urinary bladder, and there is no seminal fluid in the female. That is why for the male this internal sphincter is very strong, and that is also a reason that the female do not um, uh, the female do not put large volume of urine for a long time inside the urinary bladder, because of the weakness of this sphincter. Because when this urinary bladder is filled with urine, these sphincter are automatically open with the help of parasympathetic nervous system. And when this sphincter is open, what will happen? The all the pressure of this urine will come upon this sphincter, and now you will it depends upon you, the individual, that when and where to open this external urethral sphincter. Now you should also learn over here that this detrusor muscle, when there is a micturition reflex, or when an individual is going to micturate, what will he do or what will she do? The individual will contract these detrusal muscle. These detrusal muscle will be contracted. And why this detrusal muscle will be contracted? These detrusal muscle will be contracted with the help of parasympathetic nervous system. There is you should also learn that the detrusal muscle is provided by the autonomic nervous system, because these are smooth muscle, these are not skeletal muscle, and these are skeletal muscle, these are not smooth muscle. So these smooth muscle are provided with the sympathetic and parasympathetic nervous system. What will the sympathetic nervous system do? The sympathetic nervous system usually relax this, make these detrusal muscle relaxed, while the parasympathetic nervous system lead to the contraction of the detrusal muscle. When the parasympathetic nervous system is stimulated, the detrusal muscle will be contracted. By the parasympathetic nervous system stimulation, the detrusal muscle will be contracted, and upon the contraction of this detrusal muscle, this urine will be shifted. The pressure of urine will be put upon this internal sphincter. This internal sphincter will also get open with the help of parasympathetic nervous system stimulation. And when this get opened, what will happen? This urine will goes to this area. And now what will happen? Now the somatic nervous system will, through somatic nervous system activation, this sphincter will be open, and the individual will go to make urine or make water. Now you should also be clear over here that these detrusal muscle, these are parasympathetic nervous system. These consist of M3 receptors. M3 receptor is present inside the detrusal muscle. M3 receptor, there is a type of muscarinic receptor. You will learn about this information in detail in the pharmacology. In the internal sphincter, this is also provided with the some alpha receptors in this internal sphincter, provided with the alpha receptor. And this when the sympathetic nervous system is stimulated, then the sympathetic, by the stimulation of sympathetic nervous system, this internal sphincter will be contracted. This internal sphincter will be contracted, and this external sphincter, this not external, this detrusal muscle will be relaxed. This detrusal muscle will be relaxed. So upon the sympathetic nervous system stimulation, an individual cannot micturate, cannot urinate, cannot make water, because the detrusal muscle is not going to contract. The detrusal muscle will contract when the parasympathetic nervous system is stimulated. It will never contract when it will never lead to the transfer of urine from this area to this area when the sympathetic nervous system is stimulated. So this is all about the ureter, urinary bladder, and the now you should also be clear that some UTIs, urinary tract infection, which are common in the urinary tract, are the most common one is the cystitis. Cystitis is the inflammation of urinary bladder. Urinary bladder inflammation is cystitis. The inflammation of urethra is called urethritis. Urethritis, and the inflammation of this ureter is called ureteritis. Ureteritis is the inflammation of ureter. Cystitis is the inflammation of urinary bladder, and the urethritis is the inflammation of urethra, while the inflammation of kidney is called nephritis. Okay, this was all about the ureter, urinary bladder, and urethra.